The next 3 or 4 years, people will start to return once they realise that Bhutan does have potential and opportunity for them to flourish and to utilise the skills and knowledge that they've gained elsewhere.
Welcome to the Drukyul. Every person has a story, and we listen. Today I'm with my friend Jeff Nicholls of Mountain Hazelnuts. He is the COO, and it's a company that is a really fascinating company. We're going to learn more about it from Jeff. They've been through ups and downs, and they're definitely on the upswing now. We're going to hear about that and learn a lot about hazelnuts, which is one of my favorite ingredients. As a pastry chef, I use it every day, and I found that these hazelnuts from Bhutan are the best I've ever tasted. So welcome to the show, Jeff. Great to see you again.
Thank you. Great introduction. Thank you about our hazelnuts.
You know, it's not difficult because they are superb. And I suppose, you know, you being in the business, you also have evaluated many different kinds of nut trees.
Not me personally. I'm a forester by training. And
I see.
So I'm a latecomer to hazelnuts. So, yes.
So trees in general are your specialty.
Yeah.
What is the term for a tree specialist?
I'm a forester.
Forester. Oh, that's pretty straightforward.
That was easy.
Yes,
Yep.
Good. And let's start there. Tell me about your background in forestry. You went to school, you learned on the job.
So I've got a degree out of New Zealand in forestry science, and I worked my first 5 years in New Zealand, having also done 2 years in Philippines in Mindanao early on. Before then going off to Australia, worked 8 years there, before then heading into Southeast Asia. So I've been tacking around Southeast Asia now for 25 years. Malaysia, Vietnam, Indonesia, working on forestry and agroforestry projects. And my last one before coming here was in China. And so I spent 2 years in China before getting the call to come to Bhutan, where I've now been for 8 years.
Wonderful.
In mountain hazelnuts. Yeah.
Wonderful. Southeast Asia is an enormous amount of land. Do you find in all those different places that you were stationed that there are different challenges in terms of natural blight, fungus, all the things that can attack a tree?
Well, there's type of a commonality amongst them. They all need water, they need soil, nutrition. Pest and disease in various shapes and forms are always present, but they always type of have the same impact and the same treatment. So there's a commonality between wherever you are and whatever crop you're growing, which is makes it easy for an old forester to adjust to different areas and crops. Yeah.
That's good to know. Interesting. What are some of those procedures or remedies to something like a blight or a fungus?
Well, in hazelnuts, we do have incidents of bacterial blight where the trees will get some dieback. And so we just prune out that material and take it off station and burn it. It's a nice, simple hygiene process. And that tends to control it and keep the levels of infestation low. And we're quite lucky that other pests and disease aren't really developed in Bhutan yet because hazelnuts are a new crop in a new environment. We've got the jump on the natural pests that normally follow them around, and so they haven't yet discovered our hazelnuts in the valleys of Bhutan.
Wonderful, wonderful. I actually have experience in that area. I was, as I probably mentioned, I was involved with Mrs. Obama's planting of a garden on the White House lawn. And I did not have experience. I'm a pastry chef. I mean, I bought it from my purveyors if I needed a natural product. So working with others, we planted the first garden, and the first year was a bumper crop. Just everything came up. We had eggplant, we had onions, we had herbs. Everything was perfect. I'm like, this is so easy. The second year, the bugs knew we were there. And they invaded in droves. And we had a very bad second year. So I'm very sympathetic to what you say. And I feel like we shouldn't be talking about this now because those pests out there might watch this program
right.
and they'll be like, okay,
Well, hopefully they speak Zonka, and we'll speak in English.
Very interesting. And you told me recently about one of the early things that happened to you when you were bringing a certain variety of hazelnut trees into the country.
So the project started in 2008 and 9, and started bringing plants into Bhutan in 2010, using tissue culture as the media for transporting the plants into the country. And so they came from a laboratory in China and were multiplied there, brought into Bhutan, where we raised them in Ningmatang in very small houses. They're very small plants when they arrive in a tissue culture form. And so for the first few years, we had production varieties coming in, but then we had one issue with the production of pollinizers, and hazelnuts need a male and female cross to produce nuts. And while each tree has male and female flowers, they cannot self-pollinate, so they need a different variety to come and cross-pollinate. And so, due to a wee bit of a mishap in the laboratory in China, they weren't able to produce the pollinizers early on, and so the production varieties went out, but without sufficient pollinizers to really make the crop impact. And so there was rectification of that problem. After about 3 or 4 years, the varieties did come back into production and they were planted out, but we never really had enough pollinizers in a timely manner to make the crop come as quickly as we'd anticipated.
You make me think of these trees, and how long does it take for a tree to begin producing hazelnuts?
So the trees will start fruiting quite early on, maybe 4 or 5 years, but to be commercial, they probably need to be 6, 7, 8 years to get the size and maturity needed to really start to have commercial crops.
Yeah. And how tall is a hazelnut tree at 6 or 7 years?
Well, Bhutan has very good growing conditions, and so we have some of the biggest hazelnut trees you'll find, even at our young ages. They'll reach 6, 7 meters tall.
Okay. Didn't know.
Maybe not 7, but a lot of 6s. Yes.
You're allowed to exaggerate a little bit. Well, I really am. I don't mean to keep harping on this, but not only are the trees larger, but the hazelnuts are larger, and they are, and they're a very solid, meaty nut. There's sometimes you buy nuts which are very light and they don't feel like a dense sort of product that you can use in my world in making cakes, but mountain hazelnuts are. I'm interested in also, hearing you overcome that that challenge of the lack of pollinators. So, were you thinking of changing out the trees, or?
Well, that was the first of our problems, and so we had started to rectify the pollinizer issue. However, at the same time as COVID, we found that the production variety that we had got in country has become less commercially viable with climate change, essentially. The variety we have requires a lot of chill hours to produce productive fruit. And even in the 10 years since introduction, the winters have become more mild, and so that variety was no longer producing flowers. And so now having pollinizers was resolved by them, but we had no female flowers to pollinate. And so coupled with COVID, as I said, our funders had run out of money also at that time, so we had to go back into the market looking for funding. At the same time as we realized there was an issue that we needed to rectify to bring the orchards back into production, which was changing the production varieties. So in 2022, we started a conversion program where we went through, and they're still ongoing, going through all our growers' orchards and replacing the production variety with new varieties out of Italy and Georgia, so European varieties that are better suited to low chill out, so milder winter climates. And
So when you say these chill outs, how low does the temperature have to go before they produce flowers?
Chill hour is below 7 degrees, so it's not overly cold, but it's an accumulation of hours between 0 and 7. And
I see.
So the production variety we had 1,200 hour requirement. The new ones have 400 hours. So obviously a lot more suitable for more mild climates and will be more resilient in the face of climate change in the future. They're a long-term keeper.
Oh yeah, from 700 to 400 is a big difference in terms of the hours. This is something that fascinated me in my work in the States. I still was a baker and pastry chef, but I worked on a farm that was intended to be the so-called farm-to-table system. And so in talking to the farmers, I learned so much about what I assume to be the important parts of growth for any plant. I was thinking nutrition, water, sunlight. But what I learned was sometimes sunlight is the most important of all. And that, so for example, we were sent some banana trees. This is New York State, by the way. Some banana trees from the University of Hawaii. And these were some varieties that had not been tried before. And they were trying to develop a banana tree that would survive in the winter in the Northeast, where daylight is probably at most 8 hours. And they're used to 12. So they sent us 11 plants, 2 survived. I say survived. They're obviously struggling, like, the banana, they're not producing these great big banana, but it would occur to me that, it's very rare for a certain species to, or at least I should say, to find that species that adapts to sunlight, soil, water, and climate. It's difficult.
So we've taken hazelnuts outside their natural range we are now the most southerly latitude that they're growing at.
I see.
And we've replaced latitude with altitude. So we've got closer to the equator, but further up the mountains to keep the climate conditions similar to those in their natural territory. One significant climatic change is that you're a monsoonal climate here. The Mediterranean climate tends to be a dry summer, wet winter. So that flip luckily doesn't seem to impact negatively on the crop. So we're lucky, but we've moved them out of the natural range, but tried to keep them in the same type of environment where they've come from.
I'm going to use your statement. We replaced latitude with altitude. That's it's a very clear definition of what you have done. And you certainly have your choice of altitudes here in Bhutan because you can go up pretty far. That's a very interesting and very, I would have to call it a creative entrepreneurial decision to, be able to look at the big picture and say, well, we can take this so-called problem and solve it with the resources we have here. That's pretty amazing.
The founders had initially looked to have the project in China at higher latitudes, but they took the opportunity of Bhutan's opening around 2008 and 9 and matched up the climates and realized they could make it work here. So,
Wonderful. And you're working with how many farmers here now?
We have over about 8,500 now. We're still expanding. We've been lucky that the grafting program has started to show signs of success. The 2022 grafting that we undertook it started fruiting last year and this year obviously also. And so we're finding that growers are now more enthusiastic to actually look at hazelnuts again as a viable land use for them because to their great credit, they hung with us during our darkest years and without support from Mountain Hazelnut as we underwent a severe downsizing. But now that they can see that there's light at the end of the tunnel, they're willing to come back and give us another try. And so we've planted about 660 acres so far this year.
This year alone?
This year alone. So we're really optimistic of the future.
I can see 18,500. That's
8,000.
I'm sorry, 8,500 farmers.
Farmers.
Yeah,
Yes.
well, even so,
Yes.
I'm not going to gainsay that. Very impressive. That's great.
Yeah.
I want to touch on one thing that you just mentioned, grafting, which I find fascinating because I also just recently in my dotage learned about grafting. And So apparently, so I'll take the example of an apple tree, which I was told that the apple seed is what's known as a heterozygote. In other words, give me a chance to throw in some big words.
You've moved beyond me already,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
carry on. Yeah.
So glad I stumped the scientist, which means, allow me to elaborate for Jeff and our audience. The seed does not necessarily produce the same cultivar as it was taken from. So if I have a Macintosh apple, the seed in a Macintosh apple, as I understand it, does not produce a Macintosh tree. If you want a Macintosh tree, you have to graft
clone it.
a clone. Okay.
Yeah.
Now you're over my head because I don't know about genetics. But and I understand you to say that hazelnuts also, you use the grafting process. So am I to understand that it doesn't matter what the trunk is in the ground?
So the rootstock, that's what we call the plant in the ground, is the original production variety that we brought in.
Right.
And luckily the varieties that we're putting on top are still within the same species. So they're like apples. They're still apples, but different varieties. And so they're compatible enough that we can put one on top of the other without issue.
I see.
And they then carry on the characteristics of the piece of wood that we put on top.
Right.
And that is clonal material because we're selecting it from orchards of the same parents. And so they're exact replicas of their parents back in Georgia or Italy, wherever they've come from.
Right. Right.
So yes, it's same in hazelnuts. The nuts aren't true indication. Well, they're a mix of parents, and so they're not true to type. If you have one variety and then you plant it again, it'll maybe vary from the original parent that you thought, because it now has two parents rather than a clone, which is a pure copy of the parent material.
I didn't want to go down, too much of a dark path because we talked about COVID. The unfortunate introduction of the certain variety that had no pollinators. And let's talk about the achievements and where you see this going.
Yeah, no, I think it's good actually to talk about the dark parts because we really did struggle in 22. We actually ran out of money because our funders were no longer able to come into Bhutan to even do due diligence on us. And so
due to COVID,
the country was locked down for 2 years. And so at that time, a decision was made on how we managed the company going forward. And so we had to make a decision whether or not we thought the company was viable and had a future. And at this stage, we were still struggling with our, not so much the pollinizer, but the lack of flowers on our production variety. And so the founders and managers made a decision that the project was worth keeping. Inherently, it was a nice project, and we'd already engaged a lot of growers in Bhutan. And so the motivation was that we couldn't abandon them with a failed project. It would have been a very bad representation of FDI in the country. It would have left a bad taste in everybody's mouth that foreign direct investment was not a good thing, where we are firmly in the belief that it is. Yeah. And so the decision was made to hang in, and that did require a little of pain. We had to retrench a lot of staff, good, capable staff, and come down to a size of company that we could manage with the minimal resources we had available to us at the time. And so once that decision was made, we were fortunate in that one of our major debt holders did manage to send a team here in 22, and it's one man, and he came over as an independent expert, and he was pleasantly surprised by what we were achieving here with our grafting program that we had just started. We are lucky that we can graft on a scale that no one else in the world has actually attempted to do. The Bhutan climate is accommodating in that regard. We can graft in the field January, February and get good results, which no one else has been able to achieve. So he came, realised that we were on the right path to success, but time was going to be critical. And the funders at that stage allowed us to continue to operate by providing us type of month-to-month funding, while Sean, the CEO, went out and searched for additional funding to bring the project back to life. And
I see.
so for 2 years, or potentially 3 years, we were in this day-to-day basis of will we stay open next week, will we not? And by virtue of some extremely generous people, we were able to keep alive for 3 years. And one of them was a woman from Germany who we had no linkage with, who came out of the woodwork and ended up providing us with almost about 800,000 euro of funding, not knowing us from anybody and never meeting us. And so we were very fortunate with the people that we met during this period. And so over those 3 years, we found funding from Thimphu, who are the Finnish government development agency, and their existing creditors, they actually came back and put in further money as well. And so we managed to close that deal in February this year. And so now we're on the up and up. We've started to re-engage staff. We've recontacted growers who we had abandoned for 3 years, and hence our new planting program and things like that. So,
wow. Well, it shows the value of persistence and perseverance, and all those P's just keep going when, because it does sound like quite a dark. It was for everyone, really. I mean, when I have to force myself to think back about what COVID actually was, and it's a global stoppage, like just everywhere. Things just ground to a halt, and my own business as well was unfortunately I didn't have the hand of God to come down there, so I moved on to other things. But yeah, life goes on. Well, good for you for sticking it out, and somehow those you manifested into the universe, and the Finns and the Germans heard it and came to help.
yeah.
So in terms of, and let's look at the long run. So you're now on the upswing. You've gone through these trials and tribulations, and how do you hope to develop the company? More plantings? Do you want to diversify? What's your aim?
So we do have an intention to expand the plantings as best we can. There's a lot of fallow land still in Bhutan with the rural to urban migration that's going on. There's a lot of farmland being abandoned in communities, and so we see ourselves having a role in bringing that land into economic use and providing opportunity for people to remain in their communities for the long term. So we want to expand the hazelnut base. We've been fortunate as a result of our small yields during our periods of distress. We've developed linkages with entrepreneurs in Thimphu who have started using hazelnuts in their product lines, and that's become a real highlight for us in that it gives us a local context for our crop. We had been extremely export orientated as a commodity.
I see.
Now we see there's value in a retail product and moving further up the value chain. And so we probably won't do the same final processing that the entrepreneurs are doing here, but we are moving to put in a processing line in Lingmatang that will take our nuts through to blanched and roasted for export as retail. So that's been a pleasant change. It always seems wrong to put stuff in a container and ship it off unprocessed. So additionally, we think there's other opportunities for type of intercropping, and also like things like truffles. We feel that there's an opportunity. There are native truffles in Bhutan.
Truffles as in fungi, not chocolate truffles.
As in the fungi that you guys like so much.
Yes, we do.
So we believe there's native truffle in Bhutan, and we believe that they should have colonized our hazelnut orchards because that's a natural type of symbiotic relationship. And so we're in the process of working through our orchards and finding out where the pigs are doing the most damage, because they seem to be an indicator of where these truffles potentially could be. And so long term, we see a wee truffle industry coming up alongside hazelnuts. We have examples of growers already intercropping with strawberries, cardamom at lower altitude. We think there's blueberry opportunities. So there's a whole lot of ways we can utilize land in around hazelnuts to increase revenue for local growers. And we're also doing a carbon project, so the hazelnut orchards sequester a little bit of carbon, and that is a return that will go back to the growers under the MOU that we have signed with the government. The carbon is the growers, so we're supporting that. And we've got a lot of interesting things going on. We have to form a lot of cooperatives under our drive for sustainable development with the Rainforest Alliance certification. And so we've formed 17 pilot co-ops to date, and they give us a whole lot of opportunity for land use planning and actually broader land use management outside just hazelnuts, because there's fallow land, there's riparian margins that we can utilise for carbon planting, non-wood forest products. There's a whole lot of stuff to look at there that is exciting for us into the future.
Who are you working with in Thimphu?
We have Yiga chocolate, obviously.
One of my favorites.
That's right. And,
chocolate produced here in Bhutan.
Yes, and Bhutan growers using our hazelnuts to produce oil, and also a hazelnut spread, which is just in development process, but looks promising also. So,
wonderful. Okay, you might put Nutella out of business.
That's right.
So one of the first things I heard about Mountain Hazelnuts, which got me interested in meeting you and getting to know you, was that you have a strong program of community engagement, I'll call it, and of support for the farmers. We all know that small farming is really endangered around the world. It's a very difficult thing to accomplish for a family to run a farm. Can you tell us about the arrangement that you have with your farmers?
Okay. So one of the attractions we think of hazelnuts is that they're relatively low labour input crops, and so once they've planted, they have a 50-year plus lifespan of production. And so just as a background, that's why we think they are an attractive land use for Bhutan. And under our scheme, we deliver the trees free of charge to the growers. We then provide ongoing technical support to them during the growing period, so for operations such as pruning, how to prune correctly, how frequent they need to do field clearing.
So you have like a training program where if they haven't grown them before.
Yes, and we have, at the moment, we have about 50 field staff that are full-time field extension officers who go around. They will each look after maybe 150 growers each, providing this technical support to them. And so up until the time of harvest, we have ongoing orchard maintenance, pruning, grafting for our old orchards, but that won't be necessary in the new orchards because we're planting the correct varieties.
I see.
Yeah. And then we have a guaranteed buyback scheme with the growers. So when they plant, they sign an agreement with us that is governed by a memorandum of understanding with the government of Bhutan, who with us have set a floor price for the purchase of the hazelnuts going forward to ensure that the growers are protected. And so currently we're exceeding that floor price substantially because we are wanting to encourage more growers to participate in planting. However, there is that minimum guarantee floor price that we will buy back at into the future. And so we will then buy back from the growers. We have a processing factory in Jandong in Monga, where we take the nuts, dry them, clean them, and currently that's all we do, but we have a new processing line coming in the next 4 or 5 weeks, which will then take them through shelling, grading, roasting, and then blanching and packing in Jandong.
Well, I mean, to me, that's the ideal formula where you are not only uplifting the local farmers and basically, I mean, it sounds like if they have some ground that they can devote to an orchard, it seems like a pretty straightforward way of taking care of that. And it's very different from the kind of colonial extractive capitalism that I grew up with and was part of the world for so long. So
yeah, no, and I mean, part of our shift in mindset was also after COVID, we've put in a 10% profit share with growers that wasn't initially in the MOU. It's an additional, just a recognition of the support that the growers have given through the hard period. And so the first 10% of our profits will be spread back to the growers based on their supply of nuts in any 1 year. So we want to align interests as much as possible.
So in this MOU, your farmers can sell the nuts back to you. Is there an evaluation of the crop?
Yeah, so we undertake a screening type of quality control when we take delivery of the nuts from the growers. So that removes foreign objects like rocks and things because they get paid on weight. So we make sure they're supplying clean nuts.
Yeah.
We test for moisture content at the time of collection. The growers have an obligation to dry the nuts. At this stage, we accept not fully dry, and we will finish them off ourselves in our factory. But there's an obligation to dry, and then we remove foreign objects and any nuts that are rotten or empty, and visibly so at time of pickup.
Yeah.
Then in the factory, they are further screened. We sample every batch that comes in. And we actually crack those nuts and check for the quality of the kernel inside. And so that gives us a grading standard that meets the OECD standards for hazelnuts.
OECD is?
Overseas economic. I don't know. The wealthy 21 countries in the world or whatever.
Oh, okay, got you. Okay, a standard for
Yeah, it's an international
quality.
standard for food quality. I think we've got some remarkably nice grower group. So very few get rejected at the initial grower collection. And then coming through into the QC, the more rigorous QC, probably 4 to 5% through mold or some other internal defect that's not really the grower's fault, but it just happens in any agricultural crop you get.
Yes.
A percentage of D grade. Yep.
Well, anything that has some hydration to it, I think would turn to mold. What is the common method of storing hazelnuts on the farmer's side? So, I mean, if it's fresh and he puts it all in a dark place and leaves it, I presume there's mold.
Yeah. So we train our growers in post-harvest care, which is basically we did give them a plastic sheet, and it's a simple technology. 3 or 4 days in the summer sun is enough to bring them down to this relatively stable moisture content for delivery to the factory.
Yeah.
And so it's Bhutanese growers grow. They dry chili, they dry everything, and so they.
I was going to say, I'm sure it's not a surprise to them that yak meat, chilies.
That's right.
I see chilies all over the sidewalks these days.
So, and we also do have some portable drives that we send out to areas where we expect larger harvests to come in. So sometimes it may be beyond the grower to find space to dry a ton of nuts.
I see.
And so we have portable dryers that will able to dry a ton of nuts in maybe 3 or 4 days. Yeah.
Okay, you caught my ear with that comment. What is the average sort of weight of what one farmer? It's probably not an average. I'm sure there's small and large. But let's say the smallest and the largest crop that a farmer has sent to you.
Well, at this stage, it's still a bit misleading. Our trees are only just recovering from the grafting process.
Right.
But we're getting orchards now that are approaching 1 ton of nuts. So we have growers who are now approaching the 1,000 kilos, a ton from their orchard. Now, that's obviously the top end. And we have growers who produce nothing now. Their orchards are still immature or just being grafted. So,
So I'm fascinated by that number, which really surprises me. So how, this is, I presume, all done by hand. I don't think we're using bulldozers.
The terrain here is too steep for a lot of automated operation. We do try to mechanize wherever possible to reduce the labor demands, predominantly through grass cutters and type of hand-held implements such as that. So the harvesting is predominantly by hand.
For other crops, there's these machines that just shake the heck out of a tree. Is that something that's used here?
No. The way we grow our trees is a little bit different. We grow them to a type of vase shape. They have 4 leaders, and so that's to maximize the productive canopy area that the grower gets. And so they're not set up for mechanized harvesting, and the steepness of the terrain doesn't allow it anyway. You can't put a motorbike or a 4-wheel bike on the hillsides around here.
So where I work in the States, they're sort of a buzzword, and at the risk of using corporate jargon or trendy language, we would call it regenerative agriculture. By that, I would say that the main concern of regenerative agriculture is the soil. And everything is based on the diversity of the soil, the health of the soil, the sort of bacterial load in the soil, of course, the nutrients, minerals, etc. And so in my experience with the farmers that I worked with, it just has a really healthy soil, loamy soil, without chemical fertilizers, has an incredible capacity, not to grow every plant because certain cultivars just don't do well in certain climates, but that have the right seed and the right soil really can defend itself. And this is what our farmers like to promote, the idea that a healthy plant, just like our immune system can defend itself, if it's drawing sufficient nutrients from the soil, if it has the whole array of what it needs, it can defend itself against blights and fungus and pests. To do that, the soil is not chemically added. There are some mineral additions, or I guess we would call it amendments in your world. There is like crab meal and sometimes a compost tea that we add.
Yep.
But the idea is we're more, or I would go out on a limb and say we're more concerned about the soil than the plant. That's what I would call regenerative agriculture. What do you think about that cockamamie notion?
So I think we're fortunate in Bhutan. The quality of our soils are relatively, they're recent soils. They've only come into agricultural production within two life steps, maybe 25 years.
Oh.
And so I think we're all for sustainable agriculture. But the term regenerative, I think, it is more of use in America. We've been extractively doing agriculture for the last 200 years.
Right.
And so you have depleted your soils and your ecosystem, whereas in Bhutan, we're operating in still a relatively pristine environment.
Interesting.
And so I agree with regenerative agriculture. I have no problem with it as a concept. And I think in our case, we're already operating at a very high level of soil nutrition and healthy biota and things in our soils. And so it is up to us to maintain those levels of natural fertility through sustainable agricultural practices. And in areas where it's applicable, we do organic cultivation of our hazelnuts. In some areas, we've had some pests, like the Japanese beetle has recently or relatively recently entered Bhutan. And so in areas, it has been type of the first wave of the infestation. So the numbers have been exceedingly high. And if we want to get a crop out of those areas, we may have to spray. But we're finding already 2 years after that first wave has gone through, the numbers are now a lot less. And so we can ease off on our application of pesticides, if you know, and we use very little pesticides in the environment. We have 5,000 acres of growers, and we probably have applied 5 kilos of pesticide in the last year. We only target it as required to ensure there's an economic outcome for the growers.
Right.
And so we don't preemptively spray, we do it in response to infestation. And so under our sustainability certification that we're driving to achieve this year, there are lists of chemicals that are allowed and not allowed. Bhutan has a similar list of approved and non-approved chemicals, and so we're happy to apply to work within those confines. It's not a restriction for us at all, because we are not a heavy use. We use integrated pest management as our fundamental cornerstone for dealing with our orchard health. And so,
so Japanese beetles are one of the threats to hazelnuts.
Well, they appeared that way 3 years ago. This year, they're present, but their numbers are severely reduced. And I think that's part of the healthy ecosystem that Bhutan offers, is that natural predators developed to take care of these pests as they come in, because the numbers were so high that some animal has seen a food source and it's adapted, and it's now eating the Japanese beetle. And the numbers have gone from plague proportions like 2-3 years ago to quite sustainable now without any need for intervention from us.
Wow.
And it's part of the ecosystem that we are fortunate to operate in, where a balance is fairly rapidly achieved between pests and predators. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, another kudos to Bhutan for maintaining such a diverse flora and fauna system, and very little degradation of the soil, as you mentioned, being pristine from.
Relatively pristine. It's very good quality soil. We are very fortunate to be working in this media. You know.
Well, there's so many things about Bhutan which I love, and which are just part of the indigenous life.
Well,
so many, not just plants. I mean, the sort of the way people carry themselves, the way they treat each other.
Well, even the farming practices that are traditional here, the utilization of farmyard manure, most of the fertilizer that is applied is organic by nature. They overwinter their stock and use the bedding then enriched with urine and dung as a composted fertilizer, and so that's part of the reason the soils are still productive and healthy.
All that cow poop.
Yep, that's right. There's a lot of cows, and
it's kind of a shining star here in Bhutan, and you're growing. You're helping the local farmer. How about? Does the government sort of help you communicating with sort of regions that are difficult to access? There's a lot of corners of Bhutan which are hard to get to. Is the government helping you with that, or with marketing, or with just sort of their way of getting involved?
After we've started to emerge from our problems, we've started to re-engage with government. As part of our problems, we really had to withdraw because we were looking after just making sure the company survived.
Right.
Now that we have funding again, we're re-engaging with both local and national government, and we're finding it quite exciting also that they are seeing the positive benefits now from the company, whereas previously there wasn't a lot to show for our 10 years in the Dzongkhas. So with this re-engagement, we're finding there's a lot of support now at local government level and at national level to further the project and to look at other ways of, as I say, the cooperative formation, the intercropping. We try to utilise and work with the brand Bhutan and the other marketing agencies. So we've started to become far more closely integrated with the Bhutanese ecosystem in marketing and branding. And so even last week we had a Rutgers University delegation here who have a long association with Mountain Hazelnuts, and they're very keen to develop linkages to the Royal University of Bhutan through the CNR College and Sharabsi. And so those type of connections just help strengthen our bond to the government, and hopefully they see value in what we're trying to achieve now as a company, now that we've got through the negative press of no yields, mass redundancies. We're now on the up, and we believe that we can contribute strongly to the economy of Bhutan as well as the social fabric of the country.
Yeah, it sounds like you're, well, with your collaborations with other entrepreneurs in the city here, and which makes me wonder, so you're working with a company that makes hazelnut paste, or is that the term that, I mean, that's what I would
Hazelnut
order.
spread.
Hazelnut spread, and oil, all of which are great ingredients for pastry chefs, so you have my attention there. Will you be considering taking on that production yourself as a company, or do you want to continue to outsource?
No, I think the opportunity is for us to provide high quality materials to these entrepreneurs. for a company like ours to diversify into multiple products takes away from our core business, which is growing high-grade hazelnuts. And we can do a amount of processing to get them into the roasted blanched type of market, but to develop further products does require someone with the time, effort, and interest to make it a business out of it. And we believe that, you know, if we produce quality product, there'll be entrepreneurs in Bhutan to take advantage of that. And we'd be more than happy to join with them in marketing internationally, because we feel we have strengths in that area. And so we're happy to take other entrepreneurs' products to market internationally with us. But developing all of those products is not within our scope.
Right. So interestingly, you talked about the size of harvests, and let's imagine that you, this year or next year or after, there's a bumper harvest, and mountain hazelnut is up to the ceiling in hazelnuts. You already are selling abroad, is that right? To what countries do you sell?
Well, we have done bulk sales to Australia in shell as a commodity. And this year we're really just starting to poke around in Southeast Asia. We have Singapore, Thailand. We're hoping to get access into India under the free trade agreement. And we're exploring Japan and Hong Kong. So we're still in exploratory stages with those markets. We don't have a lot of volume. And so most of the potential markets require scale.
I see.
While we were still going high-end, the size of those high-end markets is larger than we can supply on a regular basis at this stage. But in the future, we see, obviously, India is an ideal market for us. There's a large and growing number of wealthy middle class there that will pay for higher quality product, which we feel we can supply. And the transportation, obviously, is extremely low. However, you know, Singapore, Thailand, these markets all hold attraction for us, and we'll keep exploring them and see which ones drop out. I mean, Europe and America are still there in the background, so if our volume gets too big, we will expand our wings further.
So, who is your demographic? Are you aiming for the home cook who wants to learn how to sort of accentuate hazelnut flavors in her baking or in the spreads, or?
Well, it's a mix, really. The roasted and blanched product is a great snack at home, and so that will go into a lot of households as just that product. We have the opportunity with some of our lower grade kernel to put that into the spreads, and again, that's a relatively middle class type of product. It can go into India or Australia or wherever, and there's going to be demand.
And I'm hoping you're doing a special outreach to pastry chefs, because we are obsessed with our hazelnut paste.
So we've found out, and we're canvassing. I can't remember the name of the chef more recently in Europe, but as you're well aware, Cheryl's on a marketing trip in Europe, and she's made contact with chefs in Spain and France.
Well, she was the photo she sent me was of the greatest chef in the world. He had a restaurant that was #1 in the world for 5 years.
So he had the packet of our hazelnuts. So I
think you're on your way then.
We're hoping we can get as much support as we can out of the
Joan Roca. Great chef. So nothing like starting at the top.
Well, as you said, our product is world class, and so
it is truly.
We have to market ourselves or position ourselves early on. It's a lot harder to climb up the value chain than it is to fall down. And so if we start as a commodity product, we will always struggle to command the top end prices that we believe we need, and that Bhutan should command anyway as an origin of these products. And so that's why we are.
I was thrilled to see that. I was thrilled to see Chef Roca with his mountain hazelnuts, and since he obviously has a very fine palate, I'm sure he'll appreciate the quality that you're bringing in. That's going to be fun to follow. That's really going to be fun to follow. In my world, we're sort of obsessed with these. I don't even want to say celebrity chefs because he's so much more than that. He has just enlarged the field of gastronomy in a way that is creative and original and humorous and all the things that I think food can be as a language of communication with each other. And so I'm so happy to see that you're represented on that stage.
Yes. Yep.
Wonderful. So obviously this podcast is going to be globally influential. And so how do you get people who are interested in the subject? Can they call you? What do they do to get in contact?
Cool. So we're in the middle of our planting season at the moment. And so, as I said, we've already put away 600 odd acres of new planting. We're still looking for more, and we still have another 3 weeks in the planting season with the rains still here. And so if people want to plant, they see opportunity, they're in the higher altitude areas from 1,600 to 3,000 meters. We're open to take requests for plants. And so we have a toll-free number that's 1232. They call that number. We will put them in touch with our local field representative who will come and check their land for suitability. So we have certain criteria for our land under the MOU where we cannot touch wetland paddy fields and things. So we're in dry land and we want it to be fallow, so not utilised for a year or two. It's out of production because the farmer can no longer intensively manage it, so it's been sitting idle for a period of time, and then we will come and assess it for suitability for hazelnuts.
Wow, so if you have fallow land and you're looking for, you don't want to plant geraniums, then hazelnuts are an option. That's wonderful. And the numbers, 1232?
It's that simple, yes.
That's pretty easy to remember.
Even for me.
Well, I do have a window box on my balcony. I might ask for a few saplings. Well, that's great. Very exciting. Well, you've already told us what's on the horizon. You have a lot of big plans. Let me ask you a more general question. You and your company have been through some tough times, and now you're on the upswing. How do you face those challenges? What's your personal sort of philosophy for getting through those very dark days?
I think having a good team around you is one aspect of it. We've been quite lucky with the staff we have here. They've always been supportive. The CEO has been dedicated to the cause as well. And so if you see those people, you don't really want to let them down. And so part of it is making sure the project doesn't fail, both for your staff and 8,000 plus growers. And so it's really, I don't know, a bit of professional pride, a bit of arrogance, thinking you can fix a problem, not fully understanding the severity of it, but no, having a good supportive team and wanting a good outcome for your customer base, which are a grower family, basically. And so, it was not really, well, we always thought maybe we would have to close down. It was never really the first thought that we had. It was always, where will we find more money to carry on until we get this sorted out. Yeah.
Well, I don't think it's arrogance. I think it's more confidence and believing in yourself and sort of believing that the universe will come through for you eventually.
And things did manifest themselves in our favour. So we
sure did.
We feel extremely fortunate to be here still, and as I say, we're very positive of the future. So
terrific. Jeff, the one thing that we all talk about in the news is a lot of young people leave Bhutan. They leave Bhutan for greener pastures, wherever that is. What is your advice to the young generation, Grandpa?
I'm not yet a grandfather, so
I
take
beyond,
no offence.
so.
But look, I think it's difficult not to be attracted by the bright lights of the outside world.
Sure.
I myself have not lived in my home country for nigh on 40 years.
Yeah.
And I think you can't deny people that opportunity to go and explore the world.
Yeah.
What I would wish is that they make the effort to return and see the opportunities that they can find in Bhutan utilizing the skills they've picked up externally. And so in my case, the skills I've picked up are already abundantly in New Zealand. I don't add any value by going home to New Zealand. I think I add value in other countries where my skills aren't so prevalent. I think people who go to Australia will learn things that they can put to practice in Bhutan and make a living if done in the correct way. You know, a good living, maybe not Australian incomes, but
Yeah.
you know, there's no reason for a person who has a master's from Australia to go and live back in their parents' house in rural Bhutan on a subsistence farming type of lifestyle.
Right.
They should be able to utilize their skills and create value. And I think that's the challenge for almost any country. New Zealand is also immigrating to Australia in large numbers at the moment.
I see.
You know, it's not unique to Bhutan. But the good thing is you people want to come home, and there are opportunities in Bhutan. And I think, you know, we've employed 2 returnees from Australia just recently in the last few months.
I see.
And they bring with them a breadth of knowledge and experience that is maybe different from those who have remained in Bhutan. But we believe they have a future here and can add value and contribute. So we're happy to welcome them back to their country and to have them work for us. And, you know, I think in the next 3 or 4 years, people will start to return once they realise that Bhutan does have potential and opportunity for them to flourish and to utilise the skills and knowledge that they've gained elsewhere.
Yeah, that's a very pragmatic, and thank you for joining us. I learned a lot. I'm sure that the viewers did too. Thanks for taking the time to tell us about your amazing company.
My pleasure. Thank you very
Great.
much
Thank
for
you
having
for
us here.
coming.
Yep.
Thank you.
Cheers.